And welcome back to Civility Restored. We know we've been gone for a while. We apologize to anyone that's been listening. Just busy time of the season with the holidays. Christmas.
Yeah, the holidays are nuts. I am so thankful that they're over. We did actually record something in between the last episode and now. Unfortunately, something happened to the file.
I suck. I'll take one.
I wasn't pointing any fingers, but something did happen, and we lost the file. It was a good solid hour's worth of content, but that's neither here nor there. You know, maybe it was meant to be. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. So how was your Christmas?
Or Kwanzaa. Or Hanukkah.
I'm going to go with Christmas. I said Christmas.
But yeah, okay, we'll stick to Christmas because I do celebrate Christmas. My Christmas was good. You know, it was very eventful. Way too much going on. You know, just running very thin by the end of it. So that's why I was saying before, super happy that it's over. You know, just always so much going on now, having 2 kids and, you know, families to go see and this, that, and the other. It's like once you get home and once it's all done, you're just so happy. What about you?
Well, welcome to having 2 kids. I've told everybody that for years now. When you have 1 kid, you don't realize how easy you have it until you have 2 kids. And then you start telling your wife, you're the one that wanted the kids, remember?
I have definitely thrown that one at Amanda at least once.
It's a whole different ballgame once you have 2 kids, but it's okay. We love our kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to touch on something just real quick. It's not something we normally may cover, but you said Christmas, and you said Kwanzaa, and I could have said Hanukkah, and we could have said Happy December, whatever. But, so, our 5-year-old is in kindergarten now, and I think just before the Christmas break, she came home talking about Ramadan. All she would talk about for like 2 weeks was Ramadan. Like, where did you learn this? What are you talking about? We're Catholic, so it's not that we have any problem with any other religion. You can worship who you want to worship. If you want to worship your Timberland boots, I don't care if that's your God. But at the end of the day, I want to know why my daughter's talking about Ramadan. It's obviously a little peculiar. So she says she learned it in school. Okay, again, no problems as long as they're teaching every different aspect, right? Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa,
Ramadan.
Ramadan, whatever your preference is, I don't care. But they got to teach it fairly. And so we found out that they really weren't, because she had no clue what Hanukkah was or Kwanzaa. She knew what Christmas was because she's watched Elf on the Shelf about 20 million times. And, you know, we celebrate Christmas every year. But I don't understand why it is in our public school system we're teaching children one religion or 2 religions, but not all of them. It's either all or nothing schools. And you can't have this where we're not going to say the pledge because we say under God, but then you're sitting there teaching other religions. So that's just my rant real quick about the school system in my current town.
Yeah, I mean,
we need to fix it.
I don't have too much experience with it at this point. You know, Scarlett just started public schools, so it's kind of hard to say. I mean, you know, they had a Halloween celebration, so that in itself was kind of surprising to me. You know?
We can't have a Halloween because then you're celebrating paganism, right?
Oh yeah, I think that's the argument is
right.
that, you know, for people that are against Halloween, that, you know, you're celebrating paganism and devil worship and witchcraft, whatever it might be. But either way, I was shocked at a public school, and you know, I live in Springfield, so
you guys are diverse.
Yeah, there's a very diverse population up in Springfield. But you know, I was very shocked to see, you know, throughout the town and the schools and everything that Christmas still goes pretty. It's pretty acknowledged, you know. Whether
I don't know if it. I've come to this realization. Is it that Christmas is acknowledged, or is it that the holiday season, wreaths, lights, trees, is acknowledged?
I don't. I guess it's hard to say. You know, I think that you're probably right. It's probably the holiday season more itself that's being acknowledged, or at least that's the justification, is that it's the holiday season. But I think everybody knows, like, you know, you're looking at wreaths, Christmas trees, snowflakes. I mean, snowflakes are universal, you know.
Right.
But you see all these things, these decorations, mistletoe, ornaments everywhere, garland, whatever that stuff is called. Yeah, it's pretty symbolic of Christmas.
But then we're attacking everything still, because I don't know if you heard recently in the news that I believe, and I'm probably incorrect, but I believe in West Virginia or Virginia there is a memorial for World War One soldiers that lost their life, that lived in that area or in West Virginia, wherever. And the memorial has every soldier who sacrificed their life and gave that ultimate sacrifice. It has all their names on it, but the memorial itself is a cross. It doesn't have Jesus on it. It doesn't have anything else. It's just a cross. But now there's this group out there, and I guess they're a national group, that's protesting it to the point where it's coming up to the Supreme Court to weigh in that it should be taken down because it's offensive, because not all those soldiers believed in God, or not all of them were Christian, and I guess the cross only relates to Christians as it may be, but I don't believe that, and I think it's absolutely ludicrous that we're going to sit here and now take down a memorial dedicated to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice to defend our country's, freedoms.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if anybody should be able to weigh in on that argument, maybe the families of the soldiers, if anybody. I personally think that it's like one of those non-issues. It's more of a talking point for these people that just want to be heard and want to get their faces out there and make a name for themselves publicly. I don't think it has. It's another one of those situations that I just feel like it's. Somebody's going to stir the pot for a while. It's not really going to go anywhere, but it's going to get enough people to, support their cause or see something from their perspective. But I personally, I'm not familiar with this case, but I don't think, just based off of what you're saying, I doubt anything will come of it.
Well, I'm hoping not. But
I can't see how it could. It's a cross. A cross is symbolic of many things.
Because their argument is simply this: it's on government land. So if we're supposed to have freedom of state and religion, then it shouldn't be there. But to those people, listen carefully. What I say: get off your freaking soapbox, pick up a rifle, and go fight for your country. Then you can have a saying. Otherwise, like you said, it's up to the families of those soldiers who made that sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not the ones making noise, I don't think really anybody else has a right in that situation. But, again, freedom of speech. Everybody has the right to feel and think and say the things that they want to, whether it's right or not. That's another story.
So, even if it's stupid, you have the right to free speech. I might not agree with it. You might not agree with it. And it might be stupid, but we'll move on from that. So, the other thing that I've thought about, and over the last couple of years, especially me, attending all these town meetings and government meetings at the state level, is that in the last decade they fought to take the pledge out of schools, right? You know that. It's not a secret.
No.
Everybody knows that.
Right.
You didn't know that?
No, I did know.
Okay,
I did know that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, my question about that is, we're taking the pledge out of schools, right? Why is it that before every single town meeting or state meeting, we stand for the pledge?
Oh, you so in the recording that we lost, you actually brought that up. And I had a little more time to reflect on it and think about it. And it's like, if they're going to make the argument that it should be taken out of the pledge, or out of schools, out of the pledge, then, it should just makes sense. To me, common sense would dictate that it's also going to be taken out of town meetings,
right?
And
so you can't have it both ways. You take it out of schools because it doesn't belong. Government business or state and church are supposed to be separated. So then take it out of schools. You got to take it out of the government meetings. You got to take it out of everything related to any government activity. You don't get to say it before. Me personally, I like saying the pledge, and I truly believe that every student should grow up in this country saying the pledge. You want to say it makes them into, what's that word they try to use on their soapbox? Like brainwashing, basically. people into these nationalists or whatever you want to call
Yeah,
it.
well, I mean, sense of nationalism is not a terrible thing.
Right.
I mean,
I think it gets a bad word. Like Trump said nationalism one time about, what, 6 months ago? And all of a sudden, everywhere, CNN says he's a nationalist. That's so horrible that he cares about his country.
So I think the problem is that, again, you go back to the extremes on both sides and the way that they want to misconstrue something that's said. You say a nationalist and, it's got a bad connotation. But, nationalism, in my opinion, is not a bad thing. The goal should be to unite all Americans. We should all be brothers and sisters of America.
We should be proud to be from America, right?
We should be proud to be from America. Two, we should be united as, brothers and sisters of America. To me, that's nationalism. That's my take on nationalism.
Then you're exactly right.
Which is not
the definition of it.
But you have these other people who want to take it and conflate it to other things and these other ideas. That nationalism is, maybe the equivalent of segregation, in some form. Is the way that somebody might try to misconstrue it or spin it. But to me, that's just, again, one of the extremes coming out and, trying to take something and twist it into something more than it actually is.
Right. So, while you're talking about that, I Googled nationalism is the exact meaning. And like I said, it's what you said. It's patriotism. Feelings, principles, or efforts towards your country, towards your nationality, whatever have you. So what is wrong with that? So for all those that have a problem with that, let me tell you something else. You know who else was a nationalist and self-proclaimed? Teddy Roosevelt. That's right. The guy that started all the national parks and saved our forests. So, next time you want to complain about somebody being a nationalist, think about, don't you want somebody that's loyal or a patriot that helps defend your country? Or would you rather somebody that doesn't love your country and would rather see your country be defended, or would rather see another country be defended over your own country? I would rather have my country loved first, and then, of course, I love my neighbors, but my country has to come first in my book. My country, my neighbors, the people that surround me, my community, will always come first. Those on the outside, I don't mean it in a negative way, but they will come second.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's not split. It's just there's two different realms of thought for me. So you have, in the one hand, like you're saying, pride of my country, pride of my people, pride of who I am living in America. But in the other hand, for me at least, and you're saying yes, you want to help people, but there has to be a humanitarian consideration to everything.
And that's fine. In America, the United States has always been at the front of helping every country around the world when they needed help. World War I, World War II. We were there to help liberate France and liberate all these countries, including Britain, that were taken over by this psychopath. Okay? So, we have always been a country that's helped other countries.
I mean, we also can't pretend like the United States never had invested interest in these things. In wars. In World War II, I mean, our interest in World War II wasn't really peaked until we ourselves got attacked. Once we got attacked, then it was really all right, well, you know what? That's enough of this. We're going to shut this down, and this is how we're going to do it.
You do realize that we were attacked first in Pearl Harbor, and then the European Theater of Operations opened up after Pearl Harbor attack. I believe maybe 6 months or a year after. So we went over there. We had soldiers already on the European theater, but we fully committed about a year after Pearl Harbor, I believe, maybe a little less. But we were always engaged in helping the Brits, France, and all those other countries find peace or find a
Listen, that's fine.
solution.
I can agree with that. That we were there to help them. They were our allies, so it absolutely made sense for us to help our allies. But they're our allies for invested purposes. Aside from that, America entering the war into the devastating position that we did, yes, me as well, an American, entered the war in, was after being attacked at Pearl Harbor by the Japanese, yes, in Pearl Harbor. It was not until that point that America came out full guns blazing and said, you know what, watch this.
I don't totally agree with that. We were already committed to the war effort and provided, guns, whatever we could to Great Britain. And
we were protecting
I think
assets.
That if you want to say what was our vested interest, well, our vested interest was we have to stop this psychopath in Germany, Hitler, before he takes over the whole world. Well, here he is fighting on the
there was a few things. So
what's next? He's going to come to America.
I mean, we have this tendency to stick our nose into problems that aren't necessarily problems. We just deem them to be problems. So, like communism, for instance, it's something that we deem to be a world problem. When really, if America was focused on America and the American democracy and our country and the betterment of our country, communism really should not have been in effect. The theory of communism, other countries partaking in the governments utilizing communism, that shouldn't have really been our business. But what we decided was that communism equals bad, equals evil, and therefore we injected ourselves into this world problem of communism that really should not have been, should how many Jewish people were being slaughtered before the United States stepped in to the degree that they did after Pearl Harbor?
Millions. But we were always there. But that's
millions of people. We had the power. Right, we had the power to.
Right, but we weren't. You're wrong. You're absolutely 100% wrong on this. We were actively engaged there. Did we have hundreds of thousands of troops there at the time? No. But we were actively building bombs, submarines, warships, aircraft, and sending it over to help Great Britain. Because they didn't ask us for help till after Pearl Harbor. They didn't say, hey, we need you to send troops now. You gotta remember, we weren't just fighting from Great Britain to the beaches of Normandy. We were also fighting upwards from Africa, through Italy. So you had Patton coming up that way, right? And then you had Eisenhower coming the other way, saying, hey, we're going to do it like this. And then they came in from the Normandy, instead of coming in from Italy, where we'd been for years. We had already been in Africa. So to say we weren't there, yeah, we weren't there with the masses, yes. But we were there.
Which we could have been.
Of course we could have been.
We could have been. I mean, if it was a humanitarian issue, there's no reason why, the millions of Jews had to die in the manner that they did. It was my only point to this, and I'm not taking away from, America's influence in World War II, our position, our victory, anything like that. I don't want that to get, I don't want that to be what's taken away from this. But I do want to say that our heavy influence was not pronounced until after we were attacked. So, I mean, that's it. We were victorious. We helped the world, yes. But the reality is that, our influence really came after America was attacked. And then going back to it, to make my point about us sticking our business in places that it doesn't belong. The Vietnam War is another example of that. Our conflict with Cuba is another example of that.
What we're going to blame on that, we're going to blame the legendary John F. Kennedy.
Well,
Because,
I mean,
well, the Dems-
you
the
can point
Dems
the
thought-
finger any way you
Listen,
want,
I'm
left or
going to
right.
figure exactly where it goes because it was the left that was in control at that point, and then said, "Hey, we're going to go over to Vietnam and we're going to influence who they put in charge." Right? There was already a little known man who was more than happy to be up in North Vietnam and let South Vietnam be run as it was by multiple territories and multiple presidents, if you will. They weren't really presidents, but you know what I mean. And instead of doing that, we told Ho Chi Minh to piss off, communism was bad, and we're going to go in and secretly start this war, but never call it a war. We're going to call it
Was it a conflict?
a conflict, so millions of soldiers will never be entitled to benefits because, well, screw you, and we can't because we're the United States. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I think you're right. We shouldn't stick our nose.
There's a lot of situations
that's like Iraq.
that.
I didn't agree with going into Iraq. When we went into Iraq, I think there was a lot of nationalist pride at the time centered around, 9/11 had just happened 2 years before, or a year before maybe, and so a lot of people were like on the side of just being gung-ho and, hey, we're going to go invade anything that poses any type of terroristic threat to the United States, which I don't disagree with that. I do disagree with the United States just entering any country at will against the wishes of the UN, the wishes of their own Congress, and the wishes of many allied forces around the globe. So that said, again, I don't agree with having gone in to Iraq, but I also don't agree with Saddam, who basically wiped out two different religions because he didn't agree with those religions. So when you say communism isn't necessarily bad, well, I'll show you millions of points where communism is horrible and atrocious, and it should be wiped off the face of the map in most cases. Maybe not all. I'm not going to say Fidel Castro was, quote unquote, as horrible as Saddam, but let's not pretend he was a good guy. While his communism may not have rose to the level of Saddam Hussein's, you could get locked up and thrown in jail for life just for saying you didn't like Fidel Castro. So imagine that. You're walking down the streets of Havana smoking a fat Cuban and you say to another Cuban, Castro is a punk. You're getting locked up for life, if not killed for that. So that is not okay, and I don't think any normal-minded person is going to find that behavior okay.
No,
so
but that's not the argument. The argument is, or the conversation is just that, we have a tendency to stick our nose in places that it doesn't belong.
We do, but
that's just
the only time I can think that we really
not really acceptable. I mean,
where do we really stick our nose?
What was the situation in Cuba?
Okay, so
it was like the slaughter of
the Bay of Pigs.
Bay of Pigs, yeah.
So the Bay of Pigs. Why did the Bay of Pigs happen?
Because we went in there unannounced and got what did we get our asses handed to us?
Why did we go in there unannounced?
Explain it to me.
Okay, so if somebody's gonna tell you that we just went into Cuba because we liked Cuban cigars, they may want to pick up a history book and understand that we went into Cuba after well, that's pretty much what you just said, is that we just went in there secretly and unannounced. It was nothing like that. For years, Cuba, in cooperation with the Russians, were, becoming more and more buddy-buddy with the Russians, so to speak, and our CIA planes, our spy planes that would go over Cuba and watch them, they monitor Cuba because they knew that Cuba was a hotbed and it was a communist country. So, of course, we monitored them. Anyway, the planes noticed missile silos being built on the Cuban island. And eventually led to the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was the Soviets building up missiles on the island of Cuba. So JFK, being a young president, thought, hey, here's a genius idea. We'll do this, and it'll be great, and I'll listen to all my guys, and we'll just send these forces. Well, they had the Bay of Pigs. And most of us know that didn't turn out too well. So we started negotiations with Russia and Cuba to dismantle the missiles that were on the island of Cuba, because they had no business. They were obviously pointed at the United States, and they were causing a panic in the U.S., hence the missile crisis. So thereafter, JFK, and probably one of the smartest moves of his presidency, enacted the Cuban embargo, the ship embargo. and they stopped all traffic with United States military ships traveling into Cuba in navigable waters. So, and that worked because eventually Russia turned their ships around and Russia decreased their missiles.
So, just while you're sitting here explaining the story to me, I decided to look up a little bit more, and it actually talks about how the Cuban Missile Crisis did not occur until after the Bay of Pigs. The Bay of Pigs was actually set into motion to basically, overthrow, Fidel Castro.
Right.
And then his position was actually strengthened with the Russians as a result. So, I mean,
Fidel always had a good position with the Russians. They're both communist countries. Let's be honest. They already have something in common. If they were on a dating site, they would have been matched together. It would have been like Match.com.
So my only point again is that we did,
Fidel. Absolutely.
But to what purpose? Like, why did we have the right to go in there?
Like I said, JFK was a young president. I'm not excusing it. He was influenced by what his generals told him, by what his Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, told him, and he decided, all right, we're going to do it. We're going to overthrow Fidel with this secret force, and it's all going to be good. Now, do not let anybody or Google fool you that there weren't missiles already there. There were.
Of course. There's probably missiles everywhere that says there's no missiles.
Right, but there was a reason behind communism that we had to go in there. Now, the Bay of Pigs was a horrible accident. Well, not accident, but tragedy. And obviously didn't work out. But it wasn't just,
nothing about Cuban cigars.
Right. They were like, Fidel bad, Cuban communism bad. We send people and they killed Fidel. No.
Well, I mean, it was just see the optics. That's what it looks like. I mean,
that's fine.
Just from the optics.
Yeah, if you look at it just like that. If you look at it from a two-dimensional standpoint, maybe it looks like that. But when you dig deeper and you find that these missiles were already on the Cuban island and they were already pointed at America, you say, well, shit. I guess there was a good reason to overthrow this guy because he was in cahoots with the Russians and going to bomb us at some point.
So, allegedly. I mean, allegedly.
I allegedly point nuclear missiles out of my house towards another target, and I don't have any intention of ever using them.
Listen, we've got
North Korea might launch into one day.
Listen, we've got nukes pointed all over the place that we're not necessarily hitting the button for.
Hey,
but they're pointed in those directions.
And when you have a communist country, and you got to remember this was the 60s, the early 60s. There weren't intercontinental missiles, right? You didn't have missiles that could go from Russia to the United States.
But you had them from Cuba that could go to the United States.
From Cuba to the United States is what, like 50 miles? So, of course
not very far.
Right. So, that's whatever. I don't even know how we got on that tangent about wars, communism.
Yeah, how did we get that there?
I think it was nationalism.
Can we come back full circle? Like where? Yeah, maybe it did start with nationalism.
It started with the pledge. See what the pledge does? Holy moly!
Well, going back to the pledge. So going back to the pledge, I personally take pride, or I took pride in it. There might have been days where I was in school and I was feeling a little lazy and I didn't want to stand up for the pledge, but I did. And I personally, again, this is personal. Personally, have no issue with the pledge, but at the same time, I do feel like the separation of church and state exists, and it's a real thing. And if people want to argue that point and say that yes, there should be a separation of church and state, then I really personally don't have an issue with that either, because it's like this is
wait. I agree with church and state being separated to some extent, but people fool themselves all the time with that notion, because as I've said, and I know you've heard me say it many times, this country was based and formed around a religion. Our laws
That's fine.
are based
because you
had
a majority of people that came in. Yeah, you had the European whites that came in with the Catholic religion or Christianity.
My point is this: you literally can never separate church from state, truly.
But you can when the country was established for that very purpose.
Right, but
the country was established to separate religion. That doesn't matter. The point is this: is that
when you have all these European,
not tear it up. It's in the Constitution.
No,
It's in the Constitution to separate church and state.
Separation is. But what I'm saying is, even the Constitution itself.
You're talking about like laws,
the
Constitution,
exactly.
the way it's written,
right.
like
so
our freedoms, our liberties.
Right.
No. Those liberties are essentially applicable across all governments, essentially applicable across all religions. These are things that are just like inherently make sense to people. You should have the freedom of speech without fear of being persecuted, oppressed, or fear for your life.
Right, but my point is, and you're missing it. We founded this country, and a lot of that, the principles and what they use and what our founding fathers relied on heavily to come up with our Declaration of Independence or come up with our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. What guided them towards those decisions, what helped them was religion. But they also based it off of, a lot of it off of, English law. So what they had learned from England, right? They took some of that, they made it applicable to the United States, but then made our own Constitution. Now, when you go back further, English law itself, if they use some of that, right, to develop our own Constitution, English law was written based off of religion. So English common law was derived from religious beliefs. Okay, so ultimately, at the end of the day, the Constitution was formed in religion. At least in some point.
I mean, you could say that it was influenced by religion. That's fine. That's fair. You can say it was influenced by religion, but our founding fathers. So you talk about the influence of English law. The influence of English law coming into the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. These influences were from an oppressive government in England. Right, so we wrote this based around what they were doing wrong, is what we did. We wrote our Constitution based around what wasn't working in Great Britain.
We also based our Constitution on not being taxed anymore by the Brits, but here we are getting taxed. So, all right, let's move on.
Taxes are necessary.
We could go on forever.
I mean, that's my position.
And my position is that I don't think you can ever truly separate religion from state. That's my opinion.
You're saying it based on like that,
right, based on old.
I mean,
but
if you look at that, then you can say that the Bible applies to everything. Religion applies
believe the Bible
to
applies
everything.
But that's me. Because I'm Catholic, what I was brought up to, the Bible that I worship.
What you don't realize is that like everything, whether you're reading the what is it called, the Quran, or what's the Jewish scripture, the Torah, whether you're reading the Torah, the Quran, whatever it might be, these ideas behind their religions and like the things that are just inherently known to be wrong apply across them.
Of course.
So it's not just a Christianity thing.
I never once said that. And don't forget, not all of, as a matter of fact, most of the founding fathers weren't based on Christianity, right? They were Protestant. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that it was
Protestant, just like
Christian
a branch of Christianity.
Yeah, but it's and I don't pretend to understand it because I've never honestly researched it that much, and I should. But so when I say that, I don't just strictly mean Christianity or Catholicism. I mean all religions is what they use because they were all walks of life. They believe that you should be able to celebrate any religion that you're from.
Right, but I mean, in the argument, I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like in the argument you're making, that is for God is Allah, to other people. And in other religions, God is God, and Jesus Christ is not an embodiment of God.
That's not my argument, because when we started this cast, I specifically said, I don't care who you worship. You can worship a pair of Timberland boots. But I truly believe, regardless of who you worship, we need to have some set of beliefs we follow.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that
in the world right now.
disagree with that. I mean,
right. There's tons of people that disagree with it, and that I think that's an inherent problem in our society right now is we're kicking God out of everything. And we need to, whether, I don't care, you can worship Timberland boots, I don't care. But we need to stop kicking God out of everything, and then turn around and ask him for his help.
But that's the thing is, I think you're misconstruing it. So you're saying kicking God out of everything, and it's not kicking God out of everything.
It is kicking God out of everything.
It's kicking your God out of everything.
No.
That's what it is.
The World War I monument in West Virginia, because it's shaped like a cross, has to come down. Not because
not going to come down. I highly doubt it. I mean, I'd like to see the
outlaws. They've taken one down in Kentucky.
Listen, I've seen them take down religious monuments. I've seen them take down the Ten Commandments at a courthouse. You know, there's all that stuff. Yeah, why? Because it says in God we trust.
So you don't believe in God? Give me all your dollar bills. You can pay them to my PayPal account.
I still need money. I can't help it that America prints money that says in God we trust.
So, but what I'm saying is, it doesn't say in the Catholic God or the Christian God we trust. It says in God. So whatever your God is, I just
What if it's God's? What if you're a pagan? What if it's God's? You know, like, what if you are a pagan? What if you believe in multiple gods?
Then you can believe in multiple gods.
In God's we trust.
Then say God's we trust.
But it doesn't say that.
You can say in Timberlands we trust.
Listen, it doesn't say it, but it doesn't say that.
Right, but the point,
that's my point.
The point I'm making is we just need to stop taking God out of everything, and or if you don't,
or make it more universal then.
Right, exactly.
Or make it more universal.
Because then that goes into you wanted to talk about binary and non-binary gender, right?
Yeah.
We can touch on that. Make that universal.
We can touch. Yeah, we can touch on that after. I have my position on that, and I don't for 1 second get your wires crossed and think that I'm pro 100 different gender categories. Because I'm not. Listen.
Here's the bottom line. Ben Shapiro said it the best. If I had $1 for every gender, you know how many dollars I'd have? $2. Because that's how many genders there are. And that doesn't make anybody, that doesn't make me, that doesn't make you against anything else. But that is science. You can't dispute that science.
Right, but I mean, there's actually more to it, though. I mean, there's intersex is a third option. So if you are born that way, yes, you're right. You are born that way, but that gets taken away from this.
Yeah, exactly.
Argument.
And your brain though is wired one way or the other. It's not wired both ways. Though. I mean, the third option that we know of. Until you can show me a brain rewired from male to female, how are you gonna make that argument? You can't.
What do you mean? Somebody's born intersex and they identify male, so their brain makeup is male.
Right.
Is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, they're either male or female. You can't be.
But I mean, how can you make that argument? Because that individual themselves could be conflicted. They could have gone throughout their entire life with female genitalia, born intersex with female genitalia, identifying as a male their entire life.
Right.
But then later on in life, get into this point where they're like, well, I have female genitalia, predominantly female genitalia.
But I'm a male.
But my brain has told me that I'm a male this whole time.
Right.
But I have female genitalia. You know what? I think I want to be a woman.
But your brain.
But I mean, your brain. But then this is an argument against biology versus your brain.
Biologically, you were created one way or the other. And I have no problem. I know plenty of transgender people. I love them all. There's no problem with them. They're all awesome people, actually. But your brain ultimately is wired one way or the other. When you're born, your brain is going to be wired either as a female or a male. And you're right, you can absolutely go through life, but that's environmental, deciding, hey, I identify more as a male, even though I was born as a female. That's absolutely fine, but that's environmental. That's not biological, right? You weren't born, as soon as you came out of the womb, thinking to yourself, well, I really identify as a female, even though you have a penis, right? Doesn't happen.
I mean, do you know? But do you know? I don't know. I mean, I don't. I won't sit here and argue the neurology behind it.
I guess that's the argument. Until you can, at least that's my argument, and that's a lot of other people's argument. Until you can show scientific proof that shows your brain is mapped out to, think differently than what we see on, your body, so to speak, then you're one or you're the other. You're either male or you're female. Well, you're wired that way.
So let's just close up this other conversation real quick. The separation of church and state. I'm for it. You see it differently. You see it differently as God being all encompassing. You know, when we're talking about God in the United States, you see it as an all encompassing God. You know, whether it's Allah or the Jewish God, you know, like, or whatever other gods are out there.
Right.
For however many religions are out there, you see it as all encompassing.
I believe you have the
but
right
at
to
the same
practice
time,
whatever
you also
religion
talk about how influential English law was and how we were predominantly influenced in our Constitution and in our Bill of Rights and our Declaration of Independence by
a moral compass.
Christian religion.
Oh.
It's Christian religion. That's where it came
English
from.
law was not just Christian religion, though.
It was Christian religion.
How many Protestants fled from England?
Protestant is Christian. It's Christianity.
It's a branch of.
It's Christianity.
But nonetheless, we're not just talking about Christianity, though. I'm saying whatever English law might have been based off. Fine, if it was Christianity, then put Christianity on.
But that's what I'm
All
saying.
I'm saying is that at the end of the day, everybody needs a moral compass.
And I agree with that.
Okay, so stop kicking God out. Worship whoever you want to worship, but at least find value in a God, whatever God that might be, and use it as a guide through life, as your moral compass.
But can you not see the other side?
But you can also have your beliefs and how you're going to go through life.
But can you not see the other side where people might feel that it's like this Christian God, this Christian set of beliefs that are what's expected?
No, because, listen, no, I don't buy that. I hate the identity crap today that's going on.
It's not.
Because
it's
it
not
is
identity.
identity. You just said it, this Christian.
You admitted it.
You just said it. You said this Christian or that this, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, in 2019, I won't say 18, but 2019, we are all free in the United States to make up our minds on how we're going to act, what we're going to do. All I say is, we need civility back in this country. That's the name of the show, basically, right? We need civility back in this country. People need a moral compass. You need some kind of guidance. You need something, a faith, if you will, to show you right from wrong, right? Not just laws on the book, but an actual faith, whether it's Christian, Jewish, Muslim, I don't care. You need something. I don't think, and I get there's atheists out there. Fine. That's the way you choose to live life, that there's no God, there's no religion, then that's fine. Just listen to the laws then. But I do think that having a God or having faith helps you, I know it helps me, to do what's right morally, right? And go through life with a backing of, all right, I know that my faith tells me that this is right, my faith tells me this is wrong, right? Regardless of what faith it is, they all, like you said, pretty much say the same thing. Whether it's Muslim or Christian, they all pretty much tell you, hey, murder's bad, right? Hurting innocent people, bad. That's why, like,
helping
I get
people
fed,
good.
Right, helping people is good, right. And that's what I'm saying. So that's all I'm asking is, like, just finding yourself to have some kind of faith and, work to be a better person every day of your life.
Which
right?
is fine. And, it's fine for you to have that personal belief. I guess, we're not going to beat a dead horse here, and I'm not going to continue to try to convince you to think one way or the other. Just in the fact that in this conversation you have, acknowledged that the U.S. is predominantly based around English law, English religion in some form or way.
And that's fine. If you want to call it Christian,
we'll call it Christian. And then you say that, everybody is free in this country. To me,
everybody is free. Show me an entity.
Listen. You're right. Everybody is free in this country. We have, all equal freedoms. We don't all have equal starting points, but we do all have equal freedom.
We all have the same, maybe not the same opportunity. Obviously, if you come from wealth, it's a little easier. But we all have the opportunity to make the best of the life.
That you can while you're here. Yeah, while you're here.